Hustle culture has gotten a bad rap, and I would say rightly so, but a lot of people really benefited from attempting to do everything. It's a wonderful idea. Those who work the hardest get the most, but it's simply not true. As Naval Ravikant says, it's more about who you know and what you do, not about how hard you work. Like most things, the effectiveness of hustle culture is subjective to the individual. Some people burned out and became bitter, while others profited and found their calling. I personally enjoyed spending lots of time trying many things, but what once worked for me, ironically now, works against me. The more time I spend hustling, the less successful I become. Hustle culture can be good, but essentialism is better. Essentialism is the disciplined pursuit of less. Here's how you can achieve more by doing less. Whenever you find yourself idle or looking for the next thing to do, ask yourself, is this the very most important thing I should be doing with my time and resources right now? If the answer is not a definitive yes, it's a no. Less, but better. If you don't prioritize your life, someone else will. If you don't work for yourself, someone else will figure out how to use you to make their dreams come true. Hustle culture is making a millimeter of progress in a million different directions, hoping that something sticks. And sometimes something does stick, but success isn't success forever. Actually, there are 4 predictable phases that every successful person will go through. Phase 1, if we have clarity in our purpose, it enables us to succeed in our endeavor. Phase 1 is obviously a good thing. Phase 2, you gain a reputation as a go-to person. You become good old John or whatever your name is, and you end up having more options and opportunities. Phase 2 can be a good thing, but most of us don't know how to deal with increased options and opportunities. Phase 3, when we have increased options and opportunities, it's actually code for demand on our time and energy. It leads to diffused efforts. We get spread thinner and thinner. Phase 3 is bad. Phase 4, we become distracted from what otherwise would be our highest level of contribution. The effect of our success now undermines the very clarity that led us to our success in the first place. Phase 4 is terrible, avoid it. Clarity in your mission is key. Minimalism is a practice that leads to essentialism. A good practice is to clear out the clutter. When looking at things you own, think, if I didn't own this, how much would I be willing to spend on it? This will help you get rid of things that aren't actually as valuable as you initially thought. There was an Australian nurse who took care of patients on their last 12 weeks of living, and when she asked around what their biggest regret was, the most recorded one was this: I wished I had the courage to live the life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. Replace I have to, it's all important, I can do both, with I choose to, only a few things really matter, I can do anything, but not everything. As John Maxwell said, you cannot overestimate the unimportance of practically everything. If you're totally lost, listen to your inner child, the one free from decades of outside influence. Or as Roald Dahl says, embrace the wisdom of your inner child. Imagination is the source of every form of human achievement. Here are 3 simple questions to ask yourself when you feel overwhelmed with options. 1, what are you deeply passionate about? 2, what taps your talent? And 3, what meets a significant need in the world? In other words, if you could truly be excellent at one thing, what would it be? The idea, as I've stated, is filtering out the excess, which will obviously require you to say no to things. You may feel like you're losing an opportunity, but you're making room for things that will truly bring you joy in the future. The right no at the right time can change the course of history. Like Stephen Covey said, the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. Saying no can be scary because it feels like you're rubbing people the wrong way, but respect is far more valuable than popularity. If you're someone who has trouble saying no, I've written 8 non-confrontational ways to say no in the description. Saying no at the beginning is also way easier than saying, never mind, I can't do it later on. Not committing is easier than uncommitting. Another trap is not realizing when to move on from something that isn't essential. You must admit failure to begin success. I have 4 tips for you. Number 1, don't rob people of their problems. When somebody's problems become your problems, you're taking away their ability to solve it. Number 2, boundaries are a source of liberation. If you don't set your own limits, someone else will. Number 3, find your deal breakers. What are the things that you will always refuse? And number 4, craft social contracts. If you are transparent about your boundaries, other people will avoid overstepping those boundaries. Life can be overwhelming, so you want to create a buffer for those bad times when they come, like starting a long-term project first thing, even if you're doing just a little bit today. Add 50% to your time estimate. If it takes an hour to get somewhere, to leave half an hour earlier than you normally would. And conduct scenario planning. Think of people in your niche who have had to deal with problems that will probably come your way, and go ahead and figure them out now when the problem isn't bombarding you. When starting any project, the biggest problem is the muddiness of what you think you should be doing. But the reason you start projects is to find a solution. The reason the process is fun is because you feel like once you solve it, your life will be better. 3 3 things to keep in mind when starting any new project. Number 1, be clear about the essential intent. How will you know for sure when you are finished? If your goal is to feed 300 kids, once 300 kids are fed, your goal is done. Identify the slowest hiker. What obstacle, when removed, will reduce the most tension? This will likely reduce other problems as well. Number 3, done is better than none. Figure out the problem, remove it, move on. You will eventually have to find your own schedule. Are you a night person? Are you a morning person? Do you like working at a desk, working at a coffee shop? Find your flow. One thing that seems pretty universal amongst highly productive people is finishing the biggest task of the day first thing. It's kind of hard to focus on the day when you have this big task looming over you. So if you want to find a routine that helps you accomplish those tasks in the morning, find a cue, something that triggers the moment in which you need to start working, whether that's the glass of your orange juice hitting your desk, or when your alarm goes off, or right when you hit play on the playlist. In that moment, it's time to work. You can also mix up your routines. You can change it day by day. Mondays are like this, Wednesdays are like this. Avoid Groundhog Day. And make sure you tackle your routines one by one. Don't try to have 4 routines going on at the same time for 4 different tasks. Finish one thing and then progress on top of that. The idea of stripping your life's challenges to the bare minimum is not a new idea. Hustle culture is not a new idea, but it has been overly romanticized. As culture changes, you might actually slingshot towards excess and then bounce back towards bare minimalism, and maybe you actually exist somewhere in the middle. So test out things and see where you fit in on it. But I guarantee you will probably exist happier closer to less. All the words and context of this video are from the book Essentialism by Greg McKeown. I would 100% recommend it to anyone. Read, listen. I listen to it, and Greg McKeown has a British accent, so it's nice and soothing. Much better than this. I hope this helps, and I will see you next time. Take care, progress daily, and keep killing it.